Representative Hakeem Jeffries was asked whether or not there will be any consequences, maybe an investigation into Republican lawmakers who have pushed unfounded claims of widespread election fraud. They're also planning on challenging the certification of electoral votes on January 6th. And so, I don't know, I'm curious, maybe Democrats actually do want to do something to hold Republicans accountable. Let's watch.
We've all heard the Georgia phone call now. Should the House take any action over his interference with the election on the back end?
Yeah, we didn't impeach Donald Trump simply for a phone call, though the phone call was a part of his corrupt abuse of power. What has currently taken place, I have not viewed the transcript. We're not looking backward. We're looking forward to the inauguration of Joe Biden.
So what he's referring to there, what the question was about, had to do with Donald Trump's phone call over the weekend to Georgia's Secretary of State, Raffensperger. And during that call, Trump indicated that he just needed them to find 11,000 votes, help a brother out, to do what you can to overturn the results of the election, which is a big deal. And this is certainly an abuse of power. I think it qualifies as an abuse of power. And to automatically claim that we're not gonna do anything. It's just like a preemptive, no, we're gonna let him get away with it, is just, I mean, disappointing isn't a harsh enough word. The words that I have in mind right now, I literally cannot say during this broadcast. It's beyond frustrating because, and for him to use the same language that we heard from Obama after Wall Street crashed our economy, and so many Americans still haven't recovered from that economic decline. It was the same verbiage, the same words, and Hakeem Jeffries uses it in this context where we're talking about someone who's very intentionally trying to do something unconstitutional and undemocratic. And Ryan, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but feel free to share your thoughts on this again and elaborate more.
It felt like a deliberate choice of words to rhyme with Obama's answer to whether or not he was going to prosecute the Bush administration officials for torture or prosecute Wall Street bankers for the fraudulent activity that created the financial crisis. And that was his quote. We're not looking backward, we're looking forward. We're looking forward, not backward. Maybe Jeffries got over his skis a little bit in trying to get cute by saying that he was looking forward to Joe Biden's inauguration, but he's a careful communicator and somebody who chooses his words very deliberately, and to be actively, purposely repeating one of the chief mistakes of the Obama era is it's not mind-boggling because you don't really expect a lot more from that particular element of the Democratic Party. But it is troubling because if you signal to Republicans that they can solicit election fraud, they can try to blatantly steal elections without any consequences, then the incentive for Republicans is to try to steal the election. If it works, well, then you won the election. If it doesn't work, oh well, you lost and you try again until it works. And so the result, the consequence of setting up that incentive structure is obvious in the long term, and probably not that long term.
One of the things that also boggles my mind is that so many of these Republican lawmakers have decided to put their names out there. I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of people in the House of Representatives, 10 or 11 people in the Senate who have said, no, we're gonna go ahead and challenge the certification of these electoral votes. We're gonna try to assist Donald Trump in overturning the election results. And they don't have to worry, not only do they not have to worry about consequences, more importantly, we keep hearing this discourse coming from the Biden campaign about the importance of bipartisanship and reaching across the aisle to work together. And I just don't think, I mean, I can't believe that Democratic voters are gonna be in favor of that. I mean, why would you want bipartisanship with a group of people who have consistently slapped you across your face, have tried to dismantle our democratic process, have definitely engaged in voter suppression leading up to this election and previous elections. What is there to work out? I mean, I get that Democrats have to negotiate with Republicans, considering their numbers in the Senate. But with that said, I just feel like Democrats, I'm talking about corporate Democrats, don't seem to really fight for anything, especially when it means that they'd have to go up against the Republican Party and flex a little muscle.
And that's what's so wild about the extremes that the Republican Party is willing to go to steal an election, to undermine democracy. Because why do they even care so much? If Bernie Sanders had won the nomination and was sweeping into office with a surge of popular support behind him, then okay, then I could understand some of the Republican fear, and then they're gonna start to try to block the election, steal it, do everything else they can to try to undermine a Sanders coming into office. But that's not the situation. Joe Biden, when he said nothing is going to fundamentally change, he wasn't really kidding. He said again in that audio that I obtained of his meeting with the civil rights leaders that he made it very clear that he didn't want to use executive action to get things done because A, he thought maybe it's not constitutional to do some of the things, and B, it'll just get reversed again some other time. And so I'm just going to work with Republicans and we're going to get some things done. So are they really willing to torch the entire country over 1 or 2 percentage points on corporate taxes? Is that really how far radicalized they've gone at this point? And you have to bring it back to cultural differences, because there isn't with somebody like Biden coming into office, there really isn't enough kind of money at play for them to care this much one way or the other. They're going to be completely fine either way. So it has to be cultural. There's a hatred. There's a hatred between the two parties that is expressing itself with this kind of authoritarian outburst.
So I don't know if you've heard of this author, Robert Caro, but he's written incredible books. He's written a series of books specifically focusing on LBJ, which, he was an interesting person when it came to wielding political power. And there was this one anecdote from it that I want to share, because I wonder if this kind of behavior exists in Congress anymore. So LBJ needed to get one lawmaker in the Senate on board to, I believe this was when he was trying to win as Senate Majority Leader. And so what he did, this one person just would not go on board. He needed this person's vote. So this person's daughter died in a hunting accident, and LBJ dropped everything to go to the funeral. My guess is not because he actually cared to go to the funeral, but because he realized that just being there and ensuring that his colleagues saw his face there would convince him, hey, this is a caring person that maybe I should give a shot to. And believe it or not, it worked. It totally worked. It was just this interesting way of trying to appeal to someone through kindness, or what appears to be kindness. And so that was one of the ways he would wield power. Now it's a strange thing to bring up in this particular context, but when you look at LBJ's career as a politician, he was able to also turn it around and use some pretty Machiavellian tactics as well when it was appropriate in order to accomplish what he wanted. I feel like there's no strategy going on right now with the Democratic Party. They're not willing to do what it takes to not just represent the best interests of their constituents, which should be number one, but in this particular case, we're talking about defending our democracy and our Constitution. They're not even willing to do that.
Right, and I'm pretty sure the senator you're thinking of is Harry Byrd from Virginia.
Yes, I didn't want to name the wrong person. You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's not related to Bob Byrd from West Virginia. Must be a lot of Byrds out out there. Well, I'm sure the family tree intersects somewhere, but you're right, and I think it is an appropriate anecdote. And the kind of flip anecdote would be the one that Joe Biden told to Obama, that Obama includes in his memoir about Mitch McConnell. McConnell had blocked something that, this is a long time ago, McConnell had blocked something that Biden was trying to get through in the Senate. Biden approached him on the Senate floor and started to extol the merits of this particular piece of legislation, hoping that he could reach McConnell on a personal level and say, let's figure out a way to get this through. And McConnell put his hand up and said, "You must be mistaking me for somebody who cares." Stop the conversation right there. And there couldn't be a starker difference between the Mitch McConnell approach to being Senate Majority Leader and the LBJ approach to being Majority Leader. And structurally, LBJ might have to operate in a similar way to McConnell today, because back when LBJ was Majority Leader, you had a lot of bipartisanship because the parties were not ideologically coherent. You had liberal Republicans and you had very conservative Democrats, and the parties hadn't yet sorted into their kind of respective wings on the spectrum. Right now, Joe Manchin would be by far the most liberal Republican if he were a Republican in the Senate. People think of him as this kind of far right wing guy, but yeah, he'd be like another Lisa Murkowski if he were over on the Republican side. So what that means is you're not going to get the parties working together very much, which means somebody like McConnell just doesn't care. His goal is just to increase the number of Republicans he has, decrease the number of Democrats there are, and just ram as much through as he can. But McConnell's an interesting case because, he actually is one that accepted Biden's victory. He's completely fine with it. He sees that he's always going to have a significant amount of power no matter what. And so that represents kind of a different strain of the Republican Party than the Trump wing.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. And Mitch McConnell is very aware of the power he has, and he's not afraid to use it. I think that's notable. And everyone check out Robert Caro's book, Master of the Senate. It's just incredible. It's not so much about LBJ, although it is about LBJ. It's about how to accumulate and use power, which is so important.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.